1st of January 2024, and I think it's quite appropriate that my first Skidmark is a Warrafak moment. The question is, what the fuck went wrong? Let's roll back. 1994 arrived with a bang. And we had a situation that a large part of the population was all of a sudden in full control of the country. The majority, the so-called majority, or Cyril's our people. But let's be honest and objective about it. What happened? All of a sudden, ordinary people found themselves in a position that they had power. And this was promoted and proclaimed by the leadership like hell. But in that process were a few real scabengas. All they saw was the opportunity to enrich themselves. And some blacks became obscenely rich overnight. All of a sudden, he had all the money, more money that he can spend in 10 lifetimes. And he didn't know what to do with it. So he just looked at the West and he saw opportunities. Huge houses, huge fleets of expensive cars, buying from the most expensive boutiques, the most expensive shoes, obscenely expensive stuff. And they covered themselves in this glitter and glam and told themselves, now they have arrived. And then they realized, this is very lekker. We need to stay in power. And then all the shenanigans and stunts and tricks started. How to keep that power. A power that they actually did not deserve. A power that they did not earn. And in most cases, it was stupid people that landed with the power controls in their hands. And pretty soon you could see stupid people make stupid decisions. And then that stupid decisions has got results, consequences, and things started falling apart. And there were a portion of the evil white elite that exploited this stupid environment. And they started pushing shit onto our screens, Mandela with Freemason cloaks on and crap like that. Things that are not really relevant, but they built it into major issues. And these issues were far above the comprehension of the ordinary people that was living there in their homes, in their kraals, living their lives. All they were interested in and they're really concerned about was to be able to feed their family and to have better opportunities for their children. Those were the dreams of the ordinary people. But these Skabenga politicians, they are evil and they don't care about you living there in the rural Transkei or up in Limpopo or on the south coast of Natal. They don't give a shit. With this newfound power, they destroyed the textile industry. And the millions of jobs that went with it did not concern them. They made stupid decisions about the military that destroyed the military. They made stupid decisions about the railway system that destroyed the railway system. With each and every one of these destructions, thousands and sometimes millions of jobs were just wiped out overnight. But they bullshit the people and they brag about how many more people they have placed onto government grants. And a lot of the people see it and they bought it. And they accepted it. And another thing that was instigated in the black population was this absolute senseless, nonsensical attitude of destruction. These evil politicians, they whip the people into a frenzy, and then they burn schools, they burn libraries, they burn railway stations, they burn bus stops, they burn buses, they burn, and destroy. And here the ordinary guy, all of a sudden, he finds he cannot get to his job in the morning on time because the public transport system was destroyed. He had to get into a taxi. It rates many times more than what he paid on the trains. But he paid it because he had to get to his job. The disaster was at the end of the month, the piece of his salary that he could use for him and for his family got smaller because the portion that he had to pay for his transport got bigger. And he gets poorer while the transport kingpins were getting richer. But the people took it. And I'm going to lay this in front of the doorstep of the so-called clever blacks. They were fully aware of what the fuck was going on, but they were too shit scared to stand up and speak out. Why? Because that evil cabal that is in charge destroyed their careers without blinking an eye. So this leadership is now the enemy of the people. It destroys the people's lives and it destroys the clever blacks' careers. So they're destroyers. And then there are black leaders that talk a lot about colonization and they want to blame fucking all their problems on colonization. But what they don't acknowledge is that colonization gave them a country with a top-rate industrial sector, a top-rate commercial center, top-rate infrastructure, top-rate electricity, top-rate health system, all of that. They don't acknowledge that because in the back end, they could see that they can't manage it and all these things were falling apart. But they did not think about the people and made sure that they get the best of the nation to maintain and grow what we had. No, destroy. They destroyed the steel industry. The steel industry is now giving its last jerks, trying to stay alive, but they cannot. So that is also going to collapse. So where is South Africa? From a highly competitive country on many sectors of the commercial and economic life, it has now been reduced to a typical third world struggling country, totally overloaded with debt. Debt that 3-4 generations after me will still be paying that debt, while that evil cabal has devoured all of that money without producing anything that could make the lives of the ordinary people better. Now we've reached a point where the ordinary people has been battered into submission. They are just accepting the shit that is being dished up for them every day. They feel there's no way to get out of it. And then you get evil people like Malema that exploits that mindset and fuel the fires of more destruction. The question that black people should ask themselves is, okay, in 1994, we had a perfectly operating country. What has this black management system actually added to what we had? They tried, after a lot of pressure, with Medupi and Kusile. And Medupi and Kusile turned into a clusterfuck of monumental proportions. Why? First of all, they, the ANC, made changes to the tender processes, and they made sure that an ANC company, Chancellor House, got all the tenders. And it was at obscene prices. And yes, they stole billions, but they stole billions in cahoots with this sector of white elites called white monopoly capital. Not me, ordinary white boer. No, that's selected gang. Because South Africa is in the hands of gangsters. And they are stealing from the ordinary people at unbelievable rates without caring about the fact that if your child gets burned today at that open fire on which you're cooking your pap, your putu, there will not be an effective hospital or clinic that can save his life. It's just not there. But you accepted this shit, and you still listen to the types of Ramaphosa and Malema and Fikile and that type of cuck. Everything has been destroyed. The tragical part of the whole thing is, things has been destroyed that will take generations to rebuild. You and your children will never see that change. You must accept that you're in this shit for the rest of your life and your children's lives. Why? Because you allowed it. But they're brainwashing you to blame everything on colonialism and apartheid and white monopoly capital, but they never mention that they are in cahoots with my white monopoly capital to steal from you. That they don't mention. So where are we now here on the 1st of January 2024? We're at a spot where the South African financial system, the state fiscus, is going to collapse because they have wasted and stolen all the funds and money that was there. They are now in the tail end of getting more loans from evil Western financiers at rates and conditions that me and you have no idea what it is. It is totally out of control. It's totally beyond repair. But we, the ordinary people, have suffered. I've got a simple example of a white lady, that sat down with her father and some friends, and they looked at the situation of a large portion of the population who were cooking their meals every day on open fires. And she designed a little stove called the Mashesha. Clever design. The big thing is, the Mashesha uses a third or less of the wood to cook a meal than what the open fire did. Secondly, an adaptation of the Mashesha while it cooks the meal, it also boiled water so that there's hot water available. Did she get support from the government to promote that and push it into the rural areas on a mass scale to better people's lives and to save precious firewood? No, she got no support. I myself designed timber frame houses. I had a business doing well, building timber frame houses, and I designed a specific house on the scale of the hop houses. My design has got a few advantages in it. First of all, it was standing on stilts, poles. So the terrain was not really important, and the terrain need not be bulldozed flat or what to build it. You can build them along hillsides, you can build them wherever. The main advantage, and specifically for the Cape, is that the floor is 400 to 600 millimeter above ground level. What does that mean? That means when the seasonal rains come, because those areas, those townships, does not have the infrastructure and stormwater management, and so there's always flooding. The floor is actually 600 millimeter above ground level, so the flooding will happen under the houses and not in the houses. Second thing is, the material used is from, at that stage, and I'm talking mid-90s, at that stage, from the vast timber plantations that the Department of Forestry had under their control. So instead of taking those trees and chipping them up in chips and sending them out of the country and selling them to Western countries, that timber would be reworked into structural timber that could be used for building these houses. And now before you question the method behind it, if you go to North America, the oldest structures inhabited by people is hundreds of years old. You go to Europe and you look at some of those massive cathedrals and things. That is timber structures. Yes, they've got some stonework and brickwork and marble work, but the carcass and the frames are timber. Hundreds of years old. So, don't shoot a timber frame house off, compare it to a fucking brick house and say, yeah, the brick house will last longer. It will not. It will not. Timber frame, a proper constructed timber frame house will outlast any brick building. Any case. So, that timber that is chipped up and shipped out for paper in the outside world, that timber, which was already government property, could have been changed into structural timber and cladding to build these houses. So the houses will be built with our own materials. The third point is, the timber frame construction methods is of such that you can transfer the skills to do that very quickly. Not everybody can be a bricklayer. We know that. Not everybody can be a plasterer. We know that. But most people can be a timber frame construction house builder. And that building consists out of clear-cut elements, of which some can be pre-made in little workshop yards in the communities. So skills are being transferred, local material are being used, local labor are building these houses. In many instances, the occupants of the houses themselves will be involved in the construction. And I can prove that because I did a project like that for the Mpumalanga Parks Board, where I built 50 houses in a camp, in a game reserve, in 60 days. But the most important thing is, when I left after 60 days, there were in that local community enough skills to do exactly the same for themselves. So I make my proposal, I present the proposal, and it gets shot down. Why did it get shot down? Primarily, I'm a white guy, and most importantly, I was totally committed not to allow any fucking bribery in the system, because every bribe that you have to pay makes the building more expensive. So that was just wiped off the table. The sad part is, I built schools like that in KwaZulu, in which the pupils are today, 30 years later. Still, those schools are standing there, and children still have the advantage of it. So I've got no concerns about the longevity of what I proposed, but the proposal was fucking shut down, first of all, because I made no provision for bribes, and that immediately made the politicians lose interest in it, because they couldn't make money out of it. The sad part is the empowerment to the communities. It was of such, and the project plan laid it out properly, that the communities will build these things themselves. You start, say we do, and my proposal said, let's do 100 houses in this community. The advantage is, those 100 houses will be done in about 60 to 90 days, but after that, there is so much skills in that community that you could take the next project and build 500 houses in the same time. But it got flushed down the fucking toilet because, why? I'm too white. And I just walked away from it. I had scale models, everything. I threw it into the fucking trash and walked away and said to myself, Moses 6 verses 6, stupid people must suffer. And that is where we are today. Politicians, gangsters, abuse the power that they inherit. They got it on a silver platter. And today we're at a point, look around, how many apartheid structures has been destroyed. But then you go to the Middle East, and you go to North Africa, and you go to Europe, and you find, and you go to China and Russia, and you find these massive cathedrals and impressive building structures. You must remember, those structures were built not in a week or a month or a year. Some of those structures were built over generations, and they were finished, and the people enjoy the advantage of the structures. Of all the colonized countries, India is the only one that did not destroy their colonial inheritance. They did not destroy it. Those things are still operating today, giving benefits to the people, and they built a lot of new things. Here in South Africa, show me one project, the only project that resulted in a lot of new things was the World Soccer Cup. All these stadiums that were built. Those stadiums, many of them are still standing. Many of them are still in use. Some of them is no longer. But if you look at it, the volume and value of the corruption that was involved in that, you want to puke. And how those things has been neglected, so that today most of them are just a shadow of what they were when they were built. But infrastructure, where's the infrastructure projects? Where are the industrial zone expansions? Where are they? Nothing there. Why? Because this cabal of crooks thought it was a clever plan to import cheap shit into the country and destroy our own manufacturing economy. Because by issuing those permits for the imports, they got a lot of bribes. But the ordinary people are suffering. Why? Because they now are paying Still, a lot of money, but for worthless products that don't last. Our chicken industry has basically been destroyed because they tell you the AGOA agreement with America is so important because it allows us to export our agricultural products into America at no tax and shit like that. But what they don't tell you is on the other side of the AGOA, it allows the Americans to dump their cheap shit here and destroy our industries. That they never tell you. That includes that fucking Windy down in the Cape. He himself want to piss about AGOA, but he don't tell you about the other side of AGOA. Why is he not telling you about the other side of AGOA? Because they make a lot of fucking money out of that other side. So, we, the ordinary people, need to understand that we have allowed the leadership of this country to fuck our lives completely. Totally. Now today, there are some of these fucking leaders that fucked our country up that are promoting civil war. That's what they do. And if that civil war breaks out, what is going to happen? They will be safe and sound in their ivory towers, where it's you and me. We are the ones that are going to die in the streets. So, 2024, it's got a lot of challenges. Now you're going to ask me, how are we going to fix this fuck up? Simple. Go tribal. Let communities take control of their own lives. Fuck the central government. And fuck this admiralty laws that they have used and adapted and modified to protect them. Let's go back to common law, and the tribe can tell a company of triple X, you want our coal, okay? You pay a fair price or fuck off. And that contract you've got, that you think gives you the right to take my coal, our coal, fuck that contract. We do not recognize the validity or the authority of that contract. That is how you will break triple X. That is the way. Tribal. And I'm sad to say, if you don't go tribal, we will all be wiped out. Because the reality is, in the end, only the tribes will survive. And you can see now in America, and you can see in Europe, there's a lot of people that are beginning to understand. Why? Who opened their eyes? Vladimir Putin opened their eyes because Russia is tribal. That is why the ordinary people are being looked after by the government. Their culture is respected by government. And that makes them a nation. A nation that will never allow their country to be stolen by triple X. But here in South Africa, this corrupt leadership has given our country to triple X. Now we will have to take it back. We have to go tribal. And for these black militants, I've got fucking news for you. There's a lot of black kings, royalties, houses that acknowledges the fact that my tribe, the Boere, has the right to certain areas of land in this country. So, you listen to Malema with his kill the boer, kill the farmer cuck. You are the guys that are going to get killed. And he will sit in his castle in Sandton, protected by white security. But that he doesn't tell you. And before anybody in the black communities points a finger at me and call me a racist, let me just refresh your mind. White political parties, like the DA and the Freedom Front Plus, has fucked us, the white people, as well. Just the same way the ANC and the EFF is fucking you black people. These parties, The DA and the Freedom Front Plus has fucked us. There is now a movement starting to call the Freedom Front out and uproot that established royalty that sits at the top, fooling us all, trying to tell us that they represent us. They are fucking liars. They don't represent us. They rule us, and they bullshit us, and they lie to us. And they got away with it for 30 years. Shame on you. My tribe, the Boer tribe, should be ashamed that we allowed those rogues to get away with their shit for so long. But if I look at the signs, their time is up. The time of this ruling elite is up. We're heading back to what the French did during the French Revolution. You need to go and look what happened there and see if you cannot find a way out of this fuck up for yourselves before the French Revolution happens to you. Keep that in mind. And the black people must understand, you'll have to fight your own politicians the same way. If you don't, they're going to wipe you out. But in any case, back to Moses 6 verse 6. Stupid people must suffer. And I've got bad news for you. Moses 6 verse 13 says, fuck around and find out. Now sadly, you fucked around for 30 years and now you're going to find out. But it's New Year's Day. Think about these things and look around you and ask yourself this question. What the fuck did politicians bring to my life that was positive? Answer that question. Please give me a like and a subscribe and share the thing. Thank you for your support.